I sat alone at the defendant's table, watching my wife lean back in her chair across the aisle with the kind of casual confidence that comes from thinking you've already won. Her lawyer, a sharp-dressed man with a leather briefcase that probably cost more than my monthly rent, was typing something on his phone. She whispered something to him, and he smiled, not warmly, but knowingly. I didn't have a lawyer. She knew that. Everyone in that courtroom knew that. "Look at him," she'd said to her sister the week before, loud enough for me to hear through the thin walls of what used to be our home. "He can't even afford legal representation. This is going to be over in 20 minutes. I didn't respond then. I wouldn't respond now. I just sat there, hands folded on the table, waiting. The bailiff called the court to order. The judge entered. My wife straightened her posture, smoothed her blouse, and glanced at me one last time with something that looked like pity, mixed with contempt. That look used to hurt. Now it just felt like proof. I was an electrician, steady work, decent income, nothing glamorous, but I was reliable. I showed up. I kept my promises. That used to mean something. We got married 2 years later. Small ceremony. Her mother wasn't there. Vanessa said they were complicated, that her mom had control issues and didn't approve of her life choices. I didn't push. Everyone's got family drama. I figured we'd work it out over time. We bought a house. Nothing extravagant. 3 bedrooms, quiet neighborhood, enough space to grow into. I handled most of the down payment. She'd been paying off student loans and didn't have much saved. I didn't mind. That's what marriage is, right? Partnership, sacrifice, building something together. For the first few years, it felt like we were. She talked about starting a business. I encouraged her. She wanted to take a certification course that cost $4,000. I paid for it. She said it would open doors. I believed her. She started working longer hours. I picked up the slack at home, cooked more, handled the yard work, fixed things when they broke. I told myself this was temporary, that once her career took off, we'd balance things out, but balance never came. Instead, the distance grew. She stopped asking about my day, stopped laughing at my jokes, stopped looking at me the way she used to, like I mattered. I told myself it was stress, that work was hard, that she needed space. I gave her space. I gave her everything she asked for, and somehow, it was never enough. "You're still doing electrical work? I thought you were going to move up. Why don't you ever want to go out anymore? You used to be fun. I don't know why you're so tired. You're not the one dealing with real pressure." At first, I defended myself, explained that I worked 10-hour days, that I was tired because I was carrying the weight of both of us, that I did want to go out. I just wanted her to come home at a reasonable hour so we could. But defending yourself to someone who's already decided you're not enough is exhausting. So I stopped. I just nodded, smiled when I could, kept the house running, kept my head down. I thought if I stayed steady, if I stayed present, she'd remember why she married me. She didn't. Instead, she started spending more time away. Late meetings, weekend conferences, girls' trips that seemed to happen every other month. I never questioned it, never asked for details because I trusted her, and because part of me was afraid of what I'd find if I looked too closely. She sighed, the kind of sigh that says you wouldn't understand even if I explained it. Yeah, long day. I watched her walk to the bedroom, heard the door close, heard the lock click. That was new. The lock. I stood there in the kitchen, staring at the plate I'd set out for her, and felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not yet. Just awareness. This wasn't temporary anymore. This was who we were now. I wrapped up the food, put it in the fridge, cleaned the kitchen, went to bed on the couch because I didn't want to knock on a locked door and beg my own wife to let me into our bedroom. That was the first night I realized I'd become a guest in my own home. When she said these things casually, like observations, like she was commenting on the weather. And maybe that's what hurt the most, not the words themselves, but the ease with which she delivered them. Like I wasn't worth the energy of a real confrontation. Like I was just there, a fixture, something she had to tolerate until she figured out how to get rid of me. I started working more, picked up side jobs on weekends, told myself that if I could just bring in more money, maybe that would be enough. Maybe that would remind her that I was valuable. It didn't. She just spent more. New clothes, new car, weekend trips with friends I'd never met. She stopped asking if we could afford things. She just bought them and dared me to say something. I didn't. Because by then I'd learned that saying something only led to arguments I couldn't win. You're so controlling. You don't want me to be happy. I make my own money, I can spend it how I want. Except she didn't make enough to cover what she was spending. The credit card bills piled up. I paid them, quietly, without comment. Because that's what I did. I fixed things, even when they didn't want to be fixed. Even when I was the only one trying. She'd take calls in the other room, her voice low, laughing at things I couldn't hear. She changed her passwords. All of them. The laptop, the tablet, her phone. We used to share everything. Now I couldn't access anything. Privacy, she said when I asked about it. Everyone needs privacy. I didn't argue, but I felt it. That distance. That wall she was building between us, brick by brick, until I couldn't see her anymore. Until I wasn't sure I wanted to. So I just said, "She's in the shower. I'll have her call you back." "Don't bother," her mother said. "I'll reach out when I'm ready." She hung up. When Vanessa came out, I told her what happened. She barely reacted. "My mother's dramatic," she said, toweling her hair. "She doesn't understand my life, don't worry about it." But I did worry about it, because if your own mother doesn't know you're married, what does that say about how you see the marriage? What does that say about how you see me? I wanted to ask her, wanted to sit her down and demand answers. But I didn't, because part of me already knew, and I wasn't ready to hear it out loud. She came outside with her phone in her hand, scrolling, not looking at me. "I'm filing for divorce," she said. Just like that. No lead-up, no conversation, just a statement. I stopped mid-swing with the hammer, lowered it slowly. "What?" "I'm filing for divorce," she repeated, still not looking up. "I already talked to a lawyer. You'll get the papers next week." My chest felt tight. Why? She finally looked at me, and the expression on her face was something close to boredom. "Because I'm not happy. Because I don't want to do this anymore. Because you're not who I thought you were." I wanted to ask her who she thought I was. Wanted to ask what I'd done wrong, what I could fix, what I could change. But I already knew the answer. Nothing. There was nothing I could do. Because this wasn't about me. This was about her dissatisfaction, her narrative, her need to move on to something or someone she thought would make her feel the way she wanted to feel. "Okay," I said. She blinked, clearly expecting more. "Okay? That's it? What do you want me to say?" She stared at me for a long moment, then shook her head. "Nothing. I don't want you to say anything." She went back inside. I stood there on the porch, hammer in hand, and realized I'd been holding my breath. I read through it all slowly, carefully, my hands shaking just slightly. I didn't have a lawyer. Couldn't afford one. Not after paying for everything else. Not after covering her spending. Not after years of pouring everything I had into a marriage she'd already left in her mind. I called a few offices, got quotes. Every single one was out of reach. The cheapest retainer was $5,000. I didn't have $5,000. I had maybe $800 in my personal account and a retirement fund I'd been building for 20 years that she now wanted half of. So I started researching. I read legal blogs, watched YouTube videos, took notes. I learned about asset division, about documentation, about how courts handle contested divorces. I learned that sometimes the person who stays quiet isn't weak. They're just watching. I learned that preparation isn't about aggression, it's about protection. And I learned that the system doesn't care about who's right. It cares about who has proof. God, Vanessa, you're going to clean him out. I know, I feel a little bad, but not really. He should have done more. Should have been more. You deserve better. I really do. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, and felt something harden inside me. Not anger, not yet, just clarity. She thought I was beaten, thought I was too simple, too defeated, too broken to fight back. And maybe that's what I'd been for a long time. But not anymore. Accounts opened in my name without my signature, purchases I'd never approved, transfers to accounts I'd never seen. I documented all of it. I cross-referenced statements, found patterns, found lies. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. She'd been moving money, hiding assets, building her case while I was still trying to save the marriage, and she thought I'd never notice. Thought I was too tired, too trusting, too naive to see what she was doing. She was wrong. I didn't try to stop her. I just kept working, kept organizing, kept preparing. At night, I'd sit at the kitchen table with my laptop and my folders, going through everything one more time, making sure I hadn't missed anything, making sure I was ready. This is Detective Chen with the Fraud Division. I'm calling about some irregularities that were flagged on your credit report. My stomach dropped. What kind of irregularities? It looks like several accounts were opened in your name over the past 3 years. Did you authorize these accounts? No. Can you come down to the station? We'd like to go over this with you. I went that afternoon. Detective Chen was a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She laid out printouts on the desk between us. These are the accounts in question, she said. Credit cards, personal loans, a line of credit. Total debt is just over $43,000. I stared at the numbers. I didn't open any of these. I believe you. The signatures don't match. The applications were submitted online using your social security number, but the IP addresses trace back to locations you've never been. Who opened them? She looked at me carefully. We're still investigating, but the spending patterns and the linked email addresses suggest someone with intimate knowledge of your personal information. I didn't need her to say it. I already knew. What do I do? I asked. File a police report. Dispute the charges, and if you're in the middle of a divorce, you make sure your lawyer knows about this. I don't have a lawyer. She frowned. Then you need to get one. Because whoever did this committed identity theft. That's a felony. And if this goes to court, you need to make sure the judge knows you're a victim, not a co-conspirator. I left the station with a police report and a sinking feeling in my chest. She didn't answer. I texted her. We need to talk, it's important, no response. I waited 2 days, nothing. So I stopped trying. And I added the police report to my folder. She leaned over to her lawyer and whispered something. He glanced at me, smirked, then went back to his notes. I opened my folder, checked my documents one more time, and I waited. The bailiff called out, "All rise." The judge entered. An older man, gray-haired, stern-faced. He sat down, adjusted his glasses, and looked at both of us. This is a dissolution of marriage hearing for Harrison versus Harrison. Let's begin. The judge listened, nodded occasionally, made notes. Then it was my turn. I stood. I didn't have a prepared speech, didn't have a legal team, didn't have anything except the truth and a folder full of documents. Your Honor, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I don't have a lawyer, I can't afford one, but I do have evidence. I placed the first document on the table. This is a credit card statement from 3 years ago. My wife opened this card in my name without my knowledge. She spent $17,000. I've been paying it off ever since. Vanessa's face went pale. Her lawyer leaned over, whispered something to her. She shook her head. I placed another document down. This is a bank transfer, $5,200, sent to an account I didn't recognize. I found out later it belonged to someone she was seeing. The courtroom went very quiet. Vanessa's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we were not made aware of... I'm not finished, I said. The judge raised a hand. Let him speak. I continued. This is a loan agreement. She took out a personal loan using our house as collateral. I didn't sign it. Didn't know about it. But I'm listed as a co-borrower. I laid down document after document, each one a piece of a puzzle I'd been putting together for months. Fraudulent accounts, hidden debts, forged signatures. By the time I finished, Vanessa wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring at the table. Her lawyer was flipping through the copies I'd provided, his expression growing darker with each page. The judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Harrison, did you open financial accounts in your husband's name without his consent?" She didn't answer. "Mrs. Harrison, I asked you a question." Her voice came out small, shaky. I needed the money." "That's not what I asked. Did you or did you not open accounts in his name?" "Yes." The judge's jaw tightened. "Did you forge his signature on loan documents?" Silence. "Mrs. Harrison." "Yes," she whispered. The judge sat back, his expression cold. He looked at her lawyer. "Counselor, are you aware that your client has admitted to multiple counts of identity theft and fraud?" Her lawyer's face had gone white. "Your Honor, I was not made aware of the specifics of—" "That's not an answer." "No, Your Honor, I was not aware." The judge looked at me. "Mr. Harrison, have you filed a police report regarding these incidents?" "Yes, Your Honor." I placed the police report on the table. The judge reviewed it. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. He looked tired, disappointed. "I'm going to call a recess," he said. 1 hour. When we return, I expect Mrs. Harrison's counsel to have a very serious conversation with his client about the direction of these proceedings. He stood. We all stood. He left. The room emptied quickly. I looked up. An older woman was walking toward me, mid-60s, maybe older. Silver hair pulled back neatly, sharp eyes. Dressed in a way that suggested she didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Simple, elegant, authoritative. She stopped a few feet away. "You're Mark." It wasn't a question. "Yes," I said, straightening up. She studied me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. "I'm Vanessa's mother." My stomach dropped. I hadn't seen her in years. Hadn't even known she was in town. Vanessa had made it clear her mother wasn't part of her life, that they were estranged, that I shouldn't bother trying to build a relationship there. I stood, not sure what to expect. "I didn't know you were here," I said carefully. "I wasn't invited," she said flatly. "But I came anyway, because someone needed to." She glanced toward the courtroom doors, then back at me. "I heard what you said in there, the documents, the debts, the lies." I didn't respond, didn't know what to say. She stepped closer. "I need you to understand something," she said, her voice low and firm. "I haven't spoken to my daughter in 4 years. Not because I didn't love her, but because I couldn't watch what she was becoming." I swallowed hard. "She lied to me for years," her mother continued. "Told me you were controlling, that you isolated her, that you were the reason she was unhappy. I believed her at first, but then I started noticing things. The spending, the stories that didn't add up, the way she talked about you when she thought no one was listening." She paused, her jaw tightening. I tried to talk to her, tried to tell her she was making a mistake. She cut me off, told me I didn't understand, that I was toxic, that she didn't need me in her life. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. So I stepped back and I watched and I waited, because I knew eventually the truth would come out. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder, handed it to me. "These are records I kept. Phone bills, emails, text messages." She thought I didn't know about the affairs, about the money she was hiding, about the lawyer she hired 6 months before she told you she wanted a divorce. I opened the folder. My hands trembled as I scanned the pages. Bank statements showing transfers to accounts I'd never seen. Screenshots of text conversations with men whose names I didn't recognize. Emails to her lawyer outlining a strategy to maximize what she could take from me. Plans, calculations, cold, methodical manipulation. It was all there. Everything. "Why are you giving this to me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Her expression softened just slightly. Because you don't deserve what she's doing to you. And because I won't let my daughter destroy a good man just because she's too broken to see what she had. She placed a hand on my shoulder briefly, then stepped back. When you go back in there, she said, you give those to the judge. You tell him everything. You don't hold back. You don't protect her. She made her choices. Now she lives with them. I stared at the folder in my hands. I don't understand, I said. Why now? Why not sooner? She sighed. Because I hoped she'd change. I hoped she'd wake up and realize what she was throwing away. But she didn't. And now she's in there crying, playing the victim, trying to make you the villain. Her voice hardened. I won't let that happen. You've been silent long enough. It's time someone told the truth. Thank you, I managed. She nodded. I'm sorry it came to this, she said quietly. But I'm not sorry you're finally standing up for yourself. She turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing down the empty hallway. I stood there for a long time, holding the folder, trying to process what had just happened. Her lawyer looked like a man who'd just realized he'd walked into a minefield. The judge called us back to order. Mr. Harrison, he said, looking at me. Do you have anything else to add? I stood. Yes, Your Honor, I do. I walked forward and handed him the folder Vanessa's mother had given me. These are additional documents. They show a pattern of financial deception, infidelity, and premeditated planning to defraud me in this divorce. Vanessa's face went white. Her lawyer shot to his feet. Your Honor, we were not made aware of... Sit down, the judge said, his tone sharp. He opened the folder, read through the first few pages. His expression darkened with each one. He looked at Vanessa. Mrs. Harrison, did you open credit accounts in your husband's name without his knowledge? She didn't answer. Did you transfer marital funds to personal accounts he had no access to? Silence. Did you engage in multiple extramarital affairs while still cohabiting with your husband? Her lawyer leaned over, whispered something urgently. She finally spoke, her voice small. I made some mistakes. The judge closed the folder. Mistakes, he repeated, his tone flat. Mrs. Harrison, what you've done isn't a mistake. It's fraud. It's identity theft. It's criminal. He looked at her lawyer. Counselor, I strongly suggest you advise your client to reconsider her demands in this proceeding, because if this goes to trial, I can promise you the outcome will not be favorable. Vanessa's lawyer's face had gone pale. Your Honor, if we could have a moment to... You have 1 hour, the judge said. Use it wisely. He stood. We all stood. He left. Vanessa's lawyer approached me in the hallway 10 minutes later. We'd like to propose a settlement, he said, his tone significantly less confident than before. I'm listening. My client will relinquish all claims to your retirement accounts. She will take full responsibility for the debts incurred in your name and work with you to resolve them. She will vacate the marital home within 30 days and will not seek spousal support. I stared at him. And what does she want in return? She wants you to agree not to press charges for fraud. I almost laughed. Almost. I'll think about it, I said. He blinked. We need an answer today. Then you'll have one when I'm ready. I walked away. I sat outside on the courthouse steps in the cold afternoon air and thought about everything. About the years I'd spent trying. About the silence. About the way she'd looked at me that morning in the courtroom. Not with love, not with regret, but with contempt. I thought about the person I'd been when we got married. Hopeful, trusting, willing to give everything. And I thought about the person I'd become. Tired, wary, willing to give nothing. I pulled out my phone, called Vanessa's mother. She answered on the second ring. Did it work? She asked. It worked, I said. Her lawyer's offering a settlement. She's giving up everything. Good. I hesitated. She wants me to agree not to press charges. There was a long pause. What are you going to do? I don't know. Yes, you do. she said quietly. You're a good man, Mark. Too good, maybe. But you know what the right thing is. What if the right thing isn't enough? It's never about enough, she said. It's about what you can live with, what you can look at in the mirror and accept. I closed my eyes. Thank you, I said again. Stop thanking me. You did this. You stood up. You fought. I just gave you what you needed to finish it. We hung up. I sat there for a few more minutes, then went back inside, thought about what I wanted my life to look like when this was all over. I won't press charges, I said, but I wanted in writing that she admits to everything, that she acknowledges the fraud, the affairs, all of it. And I want her to agree to pay restitution for the debts she incurred in my name. He nodded quickly. We can do that. And one more thing. Yes? She doesn't contact me again. Ever. No calls, no texts, no emails. Nothing. If she needs to communicate, it goes through lawyers. Understood. We signed the papers that afternoon. Vanessa wouldn't look at me when we signed, wouldn't meet my eyes. Just signed her name, stood up, and walked out. No apology, no explanation, no acknowledgement of what she'd done. Just silence. And somehow that felt right. Because she'd never been good with words anyway. Only with lies. A month later, I was sitting on the back porch, the same porch where she'd told me she was filing for divorce, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The house was mine. The debts were being resolved. My retirement was intact. I wasn't rich, wasn't thriving, but I was free. And that was enough. I thought about calling Vanessa's mother, thanking her again, but I didn't, because I realized she didn't need my thanks. She needed to know her daughter was capable of being held accountable. And now she did, and when you stop being useful, they'll discard you without a second thought. That used to terrify me. Now it just makes me grateful. Grateful that I'm not her. Grateful that I don't have to live with the weight of what she did. Grateful that I can sit here, on this porch in this quiet house, and know that I did everything I could. And when that wasn't enough, I did the one thing I should have done years ago. I stood up. Sometimes people ask me if I ever think about dating again, about trying to find someone new. I tell them maybe, someday. But for now, I'm okay being alone, because I've learned something important. Being alone isn't the same as being lonely, and being quiet isn't the same as being weak. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away with your dignity intact. And that's exactly what I did. I rebuilt slowly, started with the house, fixed the things that had been broken for years, repainted the walls, replaced the furniture that reminded me of her. I took my time. There was no rush. I started going to therapy. Not because I thought I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I'd let things get so bad, how I'd ignored the signs, how I'd convinced myself that loyalty and patience would be enough. My therapist was a woman in her 50s named Dr. Brennan. She didn't tell me what to think or how to feel. She just asked questions. Why do you think you stayed? I don't know. I guess I thought it would get better. But it didn't. No. So why didn't you leave? I thought about that for a long time. Because I didn't want to fail, I said finally. I didn't want to be the guy who gave up. Is that what you think leaving would have been? Giving up? Isn't it? She smiled, sad and knowing. No, Mark. Leaving isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the only way to save yourself. That stayed with me. My friend James called me one night. Hey man, I heard about the divorce. You doing okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Listen, a few of us are getting together this weekend, just hanging out, watching the game. You should come. I almost said no, almost made an excuse. But then I thought about what Dr. Brennan had said. Sometimes saving yourself means doing the things that feel uncomfortable. Yeah, I said. I'll be there. It was awkward at first. I didn't know how to talk to people anymore. Didn't know how to be myself without constantly checking to see if I was doing it wrong. But slowly, over time, it got easier. I remembered who I'd been before the marriage, before the silence, before I'd learned to make myself small just to avoid conflict. I started laughing again, really laughing, not the polite, careful kind, the real kind, the kind that comes from your chest and makes your face hurt. I forgot how good that felt, not just for standing up in that courtroom, but for what you've done since, for choosing to move forward instead of staying trapped in anger. I also wanted to apologize. I should have intervened sooner. I should have told you the truth years ago. But I was scared. Scared that Vanessa would cut me off completely. Scared that I'd lose my daughter forever. In the end, I lost her anyway. But I'm at peace with that, because I know I did the right thing. And I hope someday she'll understand that too. Take care of yourself. You deserve happiness. Margaret. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry or resentful, but because there was nothing left to say. She'd done what she needed to do, and so had I. And that was enough. Kept fixing things. Kept showing up. I dated a little. Nothing serious, just coffee here and there. A movie once in a while. I wasn't looking for anything. Wasn't trying to fill a void. I just wanted to see if I could trust again. If I could let someone in without losing myself in the process. It was harder than I expected. Every time someone got close, I'd feel that old instinct kick in. The need to make myself smaller, to avoid conflict, to keep the peace. But I was learning to set boundaries, learning to say no, learning that walking away isn't failure, it's survival, about turning around and walking out before she noticed. But then she looked up. Our eyes met. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she looked away, turned her card around, and left. No words, no acknowledgement, no apology, just nothing. I stood there for a moment holding a gallon of milk and realized I felt nothing too. No anger, no sadness, no longing for what we used to be. Just indifference. And that, more than anything, told me I'd healed. I learned that some people will take everything you give and still ask for more. And I learned that walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. More protective of my peace, and I'm okay with that. And on quiet nights, when the work is done and the house is still, I sit on the back porch, the same porch where everything ended, and I feel something I didn't think I'd feel again. Contentment. Not happiness. Not yet. But contentment. The kind that comes from knowing you survived something that should have broken you. And that's enough. If I'll trust someone enough to let them in. But I know this. I'm not afraid anymore. Not of being alone. Not of being hurt. Not of standing up for myself. Because I've already been through the worst. And I came out the other side. Quiet. Steady. Unbroken. And that's more than enough.